Depression, depression, depression. Hey, who is depressed? Hey, depression, depression, depression. What about who is depressed? Hey, welcome back to the podcast. One man, one tree on a hill. I'm your host, two-time wrestling champ, stand-up comedian, Jared Waters. Shout out to everybody who's depressed out there. All the depressed people who aren't working. This is for my people working at the airport that got laid off. I take my shades off. A quote from Andre 3000. We're at week 10. We're week 10 of a pandemic. America, we've been hit by it. We've been hit pretty hard. At all the countries in the world, we're getting hit by it. A lot of theories, a lot of conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I think it starts hitting you harder now when you're confined to your own home, and that's really for safety precautions. You know what I mean? Safety precautions. I've been, going to the grocery store when I can. I try to go at like 7 a.m. I know they don't freaking wash the groceries or clean the floor. I got a cousin that works at Walmart. He goes, we don't clean freaking nothing. They don't leave, you know. And it's it's a different type of depression when, I think it's a depression, but at the same time, it's happiness. The happiness is, yes, you get a break from life and you get a break to reflect. The depression happens. I'm speaking to a lot of my friends. They're depressed because a lot of people don't like being alone with themselves. And this is what this whole podcast is about. It's, I'll say the highs and lows. The highs of this pandemic is I'm freaking well rested. My work schedule's better. It's freaking, I appreciate that, have a job that's great, I'm going to talk now. The lows, the depressive part happens when you see the people who are dying. Rest in peace to Stan Stevenson. If you don't know, Stan Stevenson was my best friend. Steven Henderson's dad, Steven Henderson, is I met Steve when I was in college. Steve is probably, I've been knowing Steve maybe 2006. This is 2020, so I've known Steven for over 14 years. 14 years. I remember when we first met each other. He was from New York. I was moving from the Netherlands to North Carolina, and he walks up, and his dad goes, "Hey, you go to this college?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "So does my son Steven." My son, "Yeah, y'all gotta meet. Y'all meet each other. Look out for each other." And then the rest was history. It was just like, Steve is running track at East Carolina. He didn't really take showers like that, but he learned how to bathe. He had these big crunchy teeth. He didn't get braces, but he had these crunchy teeth. And his dad was probably the most honest, solid person I met in my freaking life. He had five girls and one boy, four girls and one boy. It's Debbie, I think it's five. There's five in general. Five in general. And he's the type of person like this. Like if he saw you outside working, I remember one time we're sitting there, and they would move Steve in back from college. Like our freshman and sophomore year, we'd always go back home. He would go back to New York or go back to the Netherlands, and then we meet back up when you move back into campus. So when you move back in, there's moving days. So we run into Steve. We say, "What up?" We're staying at the same. We're staying at the same dorm room before we went to like live off on campus, but it was at Jarvis Hall. And Steve's asked, "Jared, you ready?" So we would always go to Cracker Barrel and like he would pay for it straight up. And I remember one time this parking attendant is sweating real hard. He's parking attendant sweating real hard, and Steve dad goes, "Hey, we appreciate what you're doing. Thank you for holding the spot. We about to go to Cracker Barrel. Let me know what you want." And the guy's like, "What?" He goes, if you want to, we're going to Cracker Barrel. What you want? Let us know what you know. We're going to get you something. I promise." And he goes, let me get a mashed potatoes, whatever he ordered. So he didn't think, because we were gone for like hour and a half. We come back, dude's still there. And Steve's dad gives him this bag and goes, "Hey, I got you Cracker Barrel." And all of a sudden the guy looks and he's shocked that Papa Stan gave him stuff. Next, all of a sudden now he becomes a preacher. He goes, "You know what God told me about you two?" The wig got, and Steve's mom's like, "Uh-huh, yeah, that's nice. Okay." So Andre, my boy Andre texts and goes, "Steve's dad's in the hospital." Hit up Steve, and I hit up his mother and asked what happened. And she goes, "He left. Papa Stan, he retired from Forgot the other job he did. Retire and he's working again. I think he's almost retired from 2 jobs. So he was doing New York City traffic. New York City traffic. He's retired. He's retired, but at the same time still working. Just he just enjoys working. And she said that Stan, he came down with something and he went to the hospital and they sent him back home. And then he said he couldn't breathe, so he went in the hospital. And I just thought, I thought he was just going for a checkup. And he was in the hospital for a month, and he passed away a couple of days ago. And it just freaking sucks, man. I know I'm never going to feel it the way my dog Steve is going to feel it. Steve just lost his father. He has 3 kids. These 3 kids just lost their grandparents. And the saddest part, I was talking to Steve on the phone, and his daughter is maybe 5, and she's up, she's crying, and she goes, "Where's Grandpa again?" And Steven goes, "Do you remember where Grandpa is?" And she says, just as cute as she can be, she goes, "He passed out." And he goes, "No, Grandpa passed away." He goes, "What do you mean?" He goes, "He's in heaven now, so you can't see him anymore." And that effed me up. That effed me up. Because you would never think that this man that I literally, Thanksgivings, Christmases, like this was my home away from home, like in New York. No one ever had to, like when I would leave for the summer, Steve would watch my car and move it around for me. And then whenever I need something, if I had to run, go out of town, do out of town gigs, he was like, "Hey, leave your car." It was just, that's the type of people they are. They're the type of people that open your homes. My boy Andre, my boy Cam Bertrand's brother, before he passed away, he goes, "Hey man, I'm in upstate New York. Can I come for Thanksgiving?" I was like, "F yeah, I'm going to my dog Steve's." He goes, "Yeah." He just opens his home to my boy, my boy Andre comes in, and he's 6'7", eating all the food. We're playing spades. That's the type of person he was. I remember, and he was a disciplinary too. He loved his kids. I remember one time, it was maybe 2008 or 2009. It has to be 2009, because I was like dibbling. I always wanted to do stand up, so I was doing like sketches in college and doing, hosting different shows, but it wasn't pure stand up. So Steve goes, "Why don't you come to New York? New York is like full of comedy." This is like when I'm like 19, 20. I think I'm 20 at the time. So I go out there, 21. I forgot. I gotta Google it. I remember. I remember got the video. And Steve's sister at the time knew this comic named John Lasser. John Lasser, pretty much top comic in New York City, and he was the first person that ever gave me stage time because Steve's sister knew him, and they're like my boy in college. So I go to New York, and I'm nervous as F. I finally do the show. I do well. I do well. I did okay. For someone's first time, I did okay. Got laughs, stuff like that. But you can tell the older comics are like, we know where these jokes are coming, but keep getting on stage. If you want to get better, keep getting on. Best advice I got. And then Steve goes, "Well, let's keep partying." So we do Thanksgiving. So Steve comes over with friend Nisha, everything else. We playing cards, having a good time for Thanksgiving. And and Steve's dad goes, "All right, I got this big bottle of Hennessy. That's my bottle. That's my personal bottle." So Steve goes, "We're gonna hang out with Nisha and her friends." We go over there. We're in Brooklyn hanging out. This what do you call it? This brownstone apartment, beautiful apartment. Next, Steve's dad goes, "Make sure you guys come back around 3 or come a decent hour because we gotta get up in the morning and drive back to North Carolina." So we're leaving at 6 a.m. and Steve and I get back at 5:45 in the morning. Steve takes his dad's big bottle of Hennessy, big bottle of Hennessy, big bottle of Hennessy. They're drinking and stuff, and then Steve had to get back home, and Steve's like, "Jared, I need you to drive." I didn't have a license, and I was like, "F, I can't drive. I guess you got to drive." Very not responsible. This is like we were super young, so his house was literally like a block away, which is not excusable. So this has happened 12, 14 years ago, and then Steve's dad come downstairs, and he goes, "Steven, first of all, I knew something was wrong when my Hennessy bottle was missing." My Hennessy, because Andrea's with us. And he goes, "And you got Jared with you. They just waiting to lock up 2 dudes like you, trying to party too hard. The cops will make an example out of you. You got to be smart, son." And he took that whole time to have a life moment with Steve to be like, "I love you, and I'm proud of you, and I want you to ride in the car with me." So like we drove, and he waited because Steve was supposed to drive halfway to North Carolina, but he was too hungover. And his dad talked to both of us because I was like, "Man, I hope this Jamaican don't spank me too." And he talked to both of us, and he talked to Steve about like being responsible. Like, "Steve, you're a black man, and you can't make these silly mistakes. Yeah, nobody was around, but someone could have been around and caught you slipping. I can look in your eyes and see that you're kind of buzzed right now." I don't think Steve was drunk. He's like buzzed. He's like little dazed and stuff like that. But that's the type of dude Stan was. He'll take the time, play with his grandkids. Uh, I have so many freaking memories of Papa Stan. Jared, how many shows? Let me know when the show. Let me know when it's a show. I'm coming. Let me know when it's coming. So he had long dreadlocks, and he cut his dreadlocks and became bald. So, yo, prayers up for all the whole Henderson family, man, because it's like, yo, he was like my second pops, man. He nothing always took care of me. So, man, that's the depressing part, the sucky part of Corona. The next part of Corona that'll f you up is when you're looking at your life and wondering, like, freak, who am I? Like, you know who you are, but like, what the freak is stopping you from going to that next level? I was talking to my old lady, and we're talking about vision. Like, what's your vision? We said, like, sometimes in life we go throughout life and we're looking through the wrong vision, meaning that some of us have 20/40 vision, 20/80, 20/20. It depends what type of vision you have, depending if you're nearsighted or farsighted, excuse me. But if you're 20/20, that's considered perfect vision. So I think sometimes in life you're going to get those feelings where you're around friends or you're around groups of people and you feel like, yo, I don't feel comfortable in these environments that I used to be comfortable with. And it's cool to feel that way. It's cool to feel that way. It's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you as a person have grown. You as a person and all your relationships are just like being your eye tested. You grew up in a situation where you're 20/70 vision, meaning that you're from the same environment that they grew up in. You guys had the same goals, but all of a sudden you got a pair of glasses and realize, oh, no, this is what my vision should look like. No, I don't have to be confined to this blurred vision of life. This is what I should be looking like. And I think sometimes when you get that epiphany that this is my clear vision, you try to put the glasses that you have on for somebody else. And that's the problem, I think, sometimes in life, that we're trying to put our what's perfect for us on somebody else when someone else is cool being blurred. Like, no, I don't need glasses. I'm cool like this. Nah, 20/70 is perfect for me. I don't need to be looking at what you're looking at. This is perfect. This is the house, the everything else that I'm inside. So, like, different visions, man. I've been approached by somebody like do TikTok videos. I feel like a freaking fraud doing it. But I'm like, you know what? Let me get out of my way and try something different. Let me try something different. Like, when you think about these podcasts, it's just like, yo, everyone has a freaking podcast. What the freak is yours? I don't know why I was trying to convey some type of emotion, but that wasn't that great. Like, when you think about these podcasts, like you read like Joe Rogan's got 100 million, you think about yourself, you're like, what the freak do you think you're so special, Jared Waters? What is different about your podcast that is not different than anything else? And I had to think about it. Well, I think that my podcast is a time capsule of life. It's not a money-making podcast. It's not this, it's not that. It's like, yo, this is something that I want to do. And I have to be cool, being cool in the silence. I haven't did stand-up in dang near 2 months. I was doing stand-up the day before they shut New York City down. And stand-up doesn't make me. It doesn't make who I am. But I do miss that part. I miss the part of like, yo, I was a freaking stand-up comic in New York City. I left Florida. I left all this stuff, and I'm freaking been at it for almost dang near 4 years in the city. And then people hit me out, Jerry, you should move back to Tampa. Move back to Tampa. We're doing stand-up out here. We're back to normal. I was like, I'm not going backwards in life. I feel like Lot's wife, if you were in the Bible stories, they're all pressing forward, and Lot's wife turned around. That's when she turned into a pillar of salt, excuse me. So it gets inside your head, man. It gets inside your head. Like, did I make the right move? And I'm just like, dang, I had to postpone my wedding. That's another depressive spot. I'm effed up about that. I'm like, dang, I should have been married already. Why the freak am I not married right now? Like, of course we're going to get the paperwork, but like that wedding I was ready, man. So all that stuff hits you. Dang, the postpone the wedding, postpone the celebration. Boom, your lady should be here right now. Boom, you're quarantined alone. And I do love being alone. But sometimes at these times, like, I don't want my woman to be alone right now. Like, she deserves to be around the 2-time wrestling champion. Depression, depression, depression. We are depressed. Depression, depression, depression. Hey, we are depressed. I was talking to one of my boys, GOO to the DIE. I talk to him dang near once a week. He's unofficially he's our producer of this podcast. And he scores movies, he makes music, and we're talking about relationships. And we're talking about past relationships, wondering how, like, not scarred we are. I wouldn't say scarred, but how I was telling him, I was like, you got to think about, it's crazy that how our young relationships affect how we see older adult relationships now. Because I remember being Freak, I remember like seeing like teens living like adults. You know what I mean? We all went to Yakota Air Force Base. I lived in the Netherlands, so a lot of people with like these young relationships were living like adults. I remember we broke into a tower, and these high school kids turned these towers, these are abandoned towers, into full-fledged apartments. People are living, literally moving in with their girlfriends and living like spouses. So of course, when you get older, you're gonna feel like, hey, how come I'm not treated like that? Wait, how come my family's not? It's just crazy. This is a random topic, but I was just thinking about that. And I was thinking about myself. I was like, yo, Jerry, you got all these ideas. Look, my freaking wall. I got nothing but jokes all over my wall. I got movies. I got scripts. I got everything else. Mother effer, push that thing out, bruh. Push that out. I'm thinking of the movie, you know it's hard out here for a pimp when you trying to get this money for the rent. What the frick is that movie called? Whoop that trick, get up, whoop that trick. Hustle and flow, hustle and flow. It was hustle and flow, man. This is one of my favorite scenes, and that's what I take to life. I'm a movie dude. Like I quote movies all the time. It's one of my favorite scenes with Terrence Howard. Here we go.
Can I say four? For the Cadillacs and gas money spent, what cause a whole lot of bitches jumping ship. You know it's hard out here for a pimp when he trying to get this money for the rent. For the Cadillacs and gas money spent, we'll have a whole lot of bitches jumping ship.
Push that shit out. Come on.
You know it's hard out here for a pimp when he trying to get this money for the rent. For the Cadillacs and gas money spent will cause a whole lot of bitches jumping ship. You know it's hard out here for a pimp.
That was my freaking jam, man. And minus the curse words. I don't curse at all, so people curse for me. But that's my part when he said, "Hey, push that out, man. You gotta push it out, man. A dog ain't like a man, there, boss. Dog might look pretty and do everything else, but you gotta push that stuff out, man. I'm looking at all these freaking goals on my wall right now. Like, yo, J-Rad, you gotta push that out. How many times you thought about this script but freaking ain't done it? So I was like, dang, and there's quarantine. I wrote a pilot. I could write 7 right now. What the freak is wrong with you, J-Rad? So I had to get out of this depressive state. Depression, depression, depression. Why are depressed? We are depressed. It's freaking depressed, man. It was just like, you're not having an emotional breakdown, but sometimes you got to look at yourself in the mirror and be like, yo, why the F aren't you where you're supposed to be right now? You talking about, Jared, you need time. Well, God, you granted me 2 months worth of time. Let's push it out, baby. And if you don't know how to do something, here comes Google, here comes YouTube. Look up it and find it. So what's my vision like? If I want to be 20/20, I got to put on these 20/20 glasses. Some people are born 20/15 vision, meaning that you see better than the obvious. That's what my eyesight is. But yeah, man, shout out. Depression, depression, depression. We are depressed. Hey, depression, depression, depression. Hey, we are depressed. Okay, so this is a different episode, but we're gonna do it. Let's see what's happening in the world. Takashi 69 is a strange transition, but I just had to, that's how this podcast is. I'm alone with my own thoughts. Before we go to current events, we got a lot of great podcast episodes. My good friend, Miss Davani Gardner, I have a beautiful podcast with her. She's pregnant. We talked about her pregnancy. My friend Lauren Brown, we talked about her being diagnosed with schizophrenia. We talked about that. This Friday, I got my man JJ Donahue. Me and him, that's my little brother. I got him coming on the podcast. And yeah, so that's what's happening next. Depression, depression, depression. We are depressed. Before we get to current events, last night I had a Zoom conference call with my family, and it felt so good. Like I remember growing up, me and my cousins were very close. I think me and my brother are very young, so my cousins were like teenagers. Like they were more like teenagers, and we were in but I was in like elementary school. But I remember, always after church, we go to my grandmother's house, we cook food, we laugh and play. And my cousin Richard was like, I want my kids to know who you guys are. And freaking never hit me. You know what I mean? It hit me that I know they're kids, but I everyone's spread across the world. Most of them are based in North Carolina. And my cousin Lashana, she said something. She was tearing up a little bit, and she goes, "It's sad that you guys don't know who my kids are." And I was like, "F man." And her kids, they're mad young, and I guess that was my second cousin's like, man, they should know who I am. They should know the man from the sun. So I'm challenging myself better to reach out to my baby cousins, be like, yo, I'm your cousin Jared Waters, and let's talk, man. Let's bond. It might be weird, but F it. We're family, and I'm so big on family. I am so big on family, and I have to reach out to the next generation of my family. I talked to my dear cousin Damien, and we talked for over an hour. We talked for over an hour. I feel bad recording conversations, but I did because I was like, you never know when you're gonna talk to these people again. So we talked over an hour about her life, and let me break that down for you. We might not even get to current events today because I feel like when you're alone with yourself, you could strip layers about yourself. I'll go to my father's side of the family. My father is one of 10, I think he's one of 9, but his father is one of 16. So my great great grandmother, she had 16 kids. She had 8 with one man, 8 with another man, and that's shout out to my great great grandfather because he waited for this woman to have a set of 8 kids, and then he slid in. That's a real man to take care of a woman, all these kids, because I would have been like, right. So first set of them were Merles. The second set were Waters, right? So I'm the last set of my grandmother, Margie Waters, and she changed her name and she had the Waters, but her first set of kids were the Merles. Now, I know the Waters, but growing up, I would hear about the Merles, and my dad would tell me stories about the Merles. Like, effing, I'm just gonna find them myself. So I found out my grandfather's brother George, his wife lived. He was dead at the time, but he's still dead. His wife lived in Greenville, North Carolina, in this nursing home or assisted living. So I went and I was like, well, I'm just gonna go over there and find her. So I go over there. I would call her. She would hang up. She was like, who is this? I said, this is Jared Waters. Who? I was like, Jared Waters. I don't know who you is, baby. And then she hang up the phone. And so I was like, man, Aunt Anna, would you just freaking answer the phone? So then I called, hey, before you hang up, you know Abraham Waters? She goes, yeah. I said, you know his son Esau Waters? Yeah. I said, well, I'm his son Jared Waters. Oh, okay, baby. Well, come over. Come on. You gonna come over? And I was like, yeah, I'll come. So I come during Mother's Day, and then I meet all of her kids. I met all these beautiful red bones and dark skin. Most of them were light, but I was like, I got all these light people over here. These beautiful dark skin. Some of them dark skin like me. And I meet this whole family of people, and they just embrace them. So I'm making my business to keep up with them. We always link up. But I was like, man, I've missed that second wave. These are my baby cousins. They should know who I am. Depression, depression, depression. We are depressed. So, news Tekashi 6ix9ine, infamous rap lord or wherever he is. Number 3 album and number 3 song on the Billboard charts. Tekashi. The reason why I find this interesting because he put these. If you don't know, he pretty much he was a troll. Pretty much he trolled his whole life. He was big on Vine, and people told him you should start rapping, so he started rapping. But he knew. He's a visionary. That's what I would say. He's a visionary because he knew gangster rap has to be really, really gangster. So he pretended to be a blood. Well, he bought into the blood family. So he passed out all these red flags and everything else and met these bloods like, hey, I want to rep the gang. And it's like, okay, we'll put you part of the Trey 9 Bloods. And pretty much the blood split. The blood split. I've been doing a lot of research. The blood split. They had one set of bloods with Shadi in them, and they had another set of bloods that wanted them. So Tekashi was always switching crews because he didn't know, he didn't know gang territory. So one dude's like, look, I trust you. I'm going to take care of you because when you bring gang members around, you got to feed the wolves. So he wasn't feeding the wolves. He was feeding half of the wolves and not paying the other half. So all these other dudes inside the Trey 9 Bloods, they were like, F this, you know what I mean? So all of a sudden when Tekashi started making more money, realizing that, you got to pay a fee. You got to pay the toll. You just can't be repping this gang and not doing anything for the gang. So he started getting security and pretty much fired him. But the thing about it is his DJ, his name is DJ Punch, was there for everything. He goes, I know he wasn't a real gangster, but he was a master of deception. And like I was trying to understand his snitching, you know what I mean? I try to understand it, but like this guy broke it down to me. He goes, you can't reason with him for telling on somebody when he orchestrated everything. Like you were putting hits out on people. These gang members were risking their lives because you were talking smack and you were out here trolling people and stuff like that. So a lot of these dudes, you put the spotlight on them. Yeah, they were doing bad crimes. Yes, we get that. But you were the one encouraging the racketeering. You're the one bringing attention to them. So, okay, you rat. Okay, good. But to call your former gang members dirty, dirty people when like you grew up in the same apartment in Brooklyn as they did, calling them grimy, saying are they disloyal to you because they slept with your baby mother? Yeah, that was effed up. Yeah, of course. But was that disloyal that you you you're repping something that you are not of? You don't. Who joins a gang at 23 years old? Like you kind of were late in life joining a gang. Like who pledges Alpha Phi Alpha when you're 48 years old? My brother, you should have did this in college or in a grad school. What are you doing now? No shot to Alpha Phi Alpha. That's just the fraternity I can think of. Who pledges a fraternity that late in life? So as DJ says that, Takashi has a lot of the crimes that we don't talk about. Takashi, when he took that plea deal, in the plea deal they said that they would erase the domestic assault charges. He like broke his baby mother's face. He punched her lip, he punched her eye, and did all this stuff. And it's like people keep sweeping that under the rug that he beat his baby mother up. Like he accused her of cheating on him, but they were never together because he was with other people. And he beat her up in Dubai. And no one talks about it because it happened in Dubai. But like, yo, that's not cool, my brother. Well, you're not my brother, snitches. But like, who am I to call, snitches or whatever? But yeah, that's effed up. You know what I mean? I think people don't forget about everything else. But he's great at spinning the narrative, and it's funny because all the former gang members. I don't like speaking on gang stuff because I'm not a part of a gang. It's funny that everyone else was just like, well, freak, we don't even know where the other girl came from. His new girl now, like he met 2 months before he got to prison. So they just said he was just a kid that wanted girls, man. He got money and he's trying to get all the stuff he doesn't deserve. So that was Tekashi 6ix9ine. Yeah, he met her 2 months before he went to jail. So what are you really doing? Rest in peace to Shad Gaspard. He was a wrestler, part of the infamous group Crime Time. He drowned in a beach, and it's freaking sad. It's always sad when you look. He died saving his son. They went out to the water, and the current dragged him, and he told the lifeguard, pretty much saved my son, and his body washed up the shore a couple of days later. It sucks that he had to die that way, but at the same time, it's just like, dude, you don't blame anybody for death, but if his wife could take it back, she would ask him, stay inside, man. You guys don't need to be at the beach. You don't need to be swimming. We need this virus out here. But it's so sad, and what's sad is the GoFundMe. I think the worst part about like death, I'm scared of death, but like I would never want to die and leave my family you know what I mean? The GoFundMe's hurt so bad, man. Cause sometimes you feel like, oh, were they hurting while they were alive? You know what I mean? I remember this comic died, and they put a GoFundMe to pay his bills and everything else, and I'm just like, man, it sucks to know that you were hurting out here. Like, we could have helped you while you were here. Like, now we're helping you in death, and now you can't. Only your family can benefit off of it. Depression. We are depressed. We're gonna get out of here with this. Joe Biden. The freak is he doing? Oh man, Joe Biden. What the freak, Joe Biden? Joe Biden says, if you don't vote for me, let me tell you something. You ain't black. Joe Biden said to all the people in the world, Joe Biden is running for the presidency. It is Memorial Day. Oh freak, we didn't even talk about that. Let's do that. Here we go.
I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, and you ain't black.
What the freak are you doing, Joe Biden? Like, what in the F are you doing? Like, what the freak are you doing, brother? And the crazy thing about Joe Biden is just making people who are undecided stay undecided. I think that Donald Trump is going to win by a lot this time. He's going to win by a lot because, first of all, I think people just don't like Joe Biden. I think a lot of people are going to stay home and not vote, and they're going to protest the vote. Hillary Clinton lost a lot of voters because people just didn't like her. You know? The only way to take it to Donald Trump is to actually take it to him, you know? Donald Trump is in the game now where he's playing in wrestling. We do this thing where when someone's riding you on the top, at the bottom, you're waiting for a mistake, and once you're waiting for a mistake, you catch them, right? So the only thing Donald Trump has to play like Floyd Mayweather and just play defense because Joe Biden's gonna put his foot on his put his foot in his mouth. The he's a creepy old dude. His hair plugs are weird, and it's just like you did a lot of bad stuff, Joe. Like these crime bills that you enforce, and it's just like he just always was the dude that talked a lot. And I think he just needs to stop trying to be funny and just go straight at Donald Trump. Because obviously, yeah, you can beat him. You could beat him. But I think that people just don't like you as a person. I feel like people like Bernie Sanders, they like other people. It depends who he picks as a vice president. But I personally believe it doesn't matter who he picks as a vice president. He's probably still going to lose because I think there's not more Trump supporters than anybody else, but there's a group of people who just aren't going to vote at all. They're just going to sit it out. And there's going to be a group of people who vote for Bernie Sanders during presidential election. There's going to be a group of people who vote for these nuts because they did that last election. Yeah, so it's not Memorial Day. Memorial Day is actually tomorrow, but I would like to say happy Memorial Day to everyone out there barbecuing or spending time with your family. Hopefully you're doing it social distancing and stuff like that. If you didn't know, Memorial Day is to commemorate all the fallen troops that fell inside serving our country and military personnel. So it's a day to pay homage to all the people that put on that uniform. My father put on the uniform. He didn't die, but he put on the uniform. I have so many friends that are in the military. My dude Cam Coop, I think he's a captain now. My boy Sasha Miller, he's a captain. My homie from college, Desiree Colbert. I can just name who else. My girl Amy Lopez. So many. Who else do I know? Boy Carlos Notoriani. All the people that I know who serve. Thank you, man. Thank you, man. Thank you for serving. Thank you for serving our country. Fun fact: Memorial Day used to be called. It actually used to be called Declaration Day to celebrate the Union and Confederate soldiers that lost their lives during the American Civil War. Then after a while, it became a memorial for everybody else. Then in 1967, it was considered Memorial Day. Just some fun facts. So yeah, this is me. This is me. Like F it, This is my podcast. I'm gonna do whatever the F I'm doing. I told myself it's a time stamp of life. Like if someone ever grabbed me like, yo, Jared, what were you doing in 2020 this day? I was like, yo, listen to my podcast. It's a time capsule of emotions, a time capsule of events, a time capsule. And if you like the time capsule, freaking like, subscribe. And if you don't, F it. Don't listen. No, actually, do listen. If you don't even like it, just still listen. F it, This is Jared Waters, two-time wrestling champ. I'm signing off. Depression, depression, depression. We are depressed.